Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Have you ever thought of this scenario? What if someone comes tomorrow and provides evidence, undoubtful evidence, that your parents that you know since infancy are not your biological parents? Would you be able to say, okay, well, I guess they're not, but they loved me, and for me, they are the most important people in my life? Or you would say, no, no, that, no, 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 no. They're my biological parents. Which side would you take? I mean, obviously, if you can verify that the evidence suggests with no doubt that these two people, if they're still alive, are not your biological parents, but they raised you to be the person you are right now, would it matter? You may say no, or maybe you may say yes. My point is this: are we capable of changing our trained delusions, illusions, propaganda, regimentation promoted by the mass media, by the entertainment industry, by schools, by the government, by some politicians, by some elites, by some experts, by some analysts? Are you able to say, wait, since I was a child, I've been told that Moses is a great man. And then when you read the Old Testament on your own, you find out that he was a mass murderer, a genocidal maniac, based on whatever he was told by someone. This is reality. Would you be able to say, actually, that is right there, black on white? Do you have that mental capacity and character to say, I've been lied? Actually, it's the opposite? Now, why did I start with this? This is not a video, an apologetic video. It's just for you and I to make a mental effort. That's all. It's an intellectual, action, activity. Is it possible that maybe the guys that were portrayed to be the good guys on this planet actually are the bad guys, and the guys who were portrayed to you since infancy to hate are actually not that bad, comparable with the ones that you were told are the geniuses and the good people and the promoters of freedom and democracy? Well, that's all. If you are capable to say, yeah, we know that already, that means you're way ahead of everybody else in the truth matter. So what do we have here? The mass media sometimes, Hollywood, governments, and obviously their superior institutions in education, tell us to hate. We need to hate one person or two persons or whomever, an idea, a country sometime, a group of people, because they tell you that those people are bad based on the evidence and interpretation they provide. I'm not going to name names here because I'm on YouTube. Well, with time and actions, with your own effort, you realize that, yes, that was bad, but also good. You're not allowed to say that guy was bad, but also good. You're supposed to say that was the most evil idea, ideology, group, person in the world. You know who I'm talking about? There are many examples. So what do we have here? I'm talking about Putin, for instance. Putin. We are supposed to think that Putin is crazy, a madman, a Napoleon complex, which actually Napoleon was not short for his time, but anyway, he was 5'9", and 5'9" in those times, 5'9" in our measure, not in British measure then. And he got a Napoleon complex and he's just crazy and he's hateful and so on. Well, this is the garbage we were fed. And our leaders, if they do what those guys in charge of us and them want us to believe, they're the pinnacle of freedom, democracy, character, whatever we need to do. I think that is a lie, most of it. All right, so what do we have here? I'm going to show you a few, I don't want to say humane things, but human reactions coming from Putin, from Trump, and see how, I don't know, maybe they can change your, or maybe not, your view on these people, how we were trained to think about them reflexively, and how we should say that guy is bad because he's a Russian or because he's doing this and that. All right. The first article that I have here is Putin calls reconciliation with Ukraine a matter of time. Well, this sounding from what we were conditioned to think a war criminal is very, very ridiculous, pathetic, and really sad. But is he telling the truth? Is he telling the truth? Maybe he's a liar. Maybe he's just a KGB agent who is just cynical. Maybe not. But I think the reconciliation with Ukraine is a matter of time. Only, the only chance that is to happen if, and I'm not promoting that, I'm not allowed to say anything that I really feel about the real issue, only if the Russians don't lose in Ukraine. Then there is a chance of kind of reconciliation. If the Ukrainians win, the hatred will be in the streets and blood will run around. So, despite the war he launched against Ukraine, reasons unprovoked and unreasonable, Russian President Vladimir Putin believes in reconciliation with a neighboring country. And I'm quoting Putin. It seems to me that this is inevitable, despite the tragedy we are currently experiencing, Putin said in advance. Excerpts from a documentary by Russian state television marking the 25th anniversary of his first presidency. This is a matter of time. Well, I hope they reconciliate, but I don't think they will because there's a lot of interest. And being a lot of interest, it depends what interest wins. Second topic. I always wondered if this guy has a successor ready. And who might that be? Putin, 72, says the succession is always on his mind. This is according to Reuters. I don't think Reuters supposedly is not, a state-owned agency or with a special interest of any kind. It's just reporting the news. All right, but in the first paragraph, first sentence, we find that actually these guys are not truthful. And I'm going to explain why. I'm going to read. Russian President Vladimir Putin, the longest-serving Kremlin chief since Joseph Stalin, said in remarks aired on Sunday that he was always thinking about the succession and suggested that there could be a contest between several candidates. All right, let's analyze this. So, the longest-serving Kremlin chief. I have to remind you that the Kremlin was ruled not only by Stalin, who was a Georgian, not a Russian, was ruled by other tsars longer than 25 years. So why would Reuters look on to Stalin as the competition and other tsars or other leaders, bad or good, in the Russian history? I tell you why. Because they want to do what I was telling you at the beginning of this video. Associate Putin with Stalin. Stalin bad, obviously Putin bad. Stalin had 25 years, right? The longest since Stalin. Why not the longest, 12, 13 or 15, 12? Because then we're going to lose track on, we have to dislike Putin because Putin is like Stalin. Stalin was a Georgian, he was a tyrant, he was never elected, and he is not a Russian. His name is Jugashvili. He's a Georgian. They don't tell you that. So from this on, I want you to never... Oh, I'm thirsty. Cheers. I want you to never trust Reuters again. For that reason. Because they are picking to create a feeling in you. Stalin, a dictator. This guy lives longer than Stalin. Is going to be in power. Bad dude, Stalin. But this is how they work. And that's not very deep. I gotta tell you, there's not very deep psychology they are doing on us. And the next sentence, again, is going to portray him as a bad dude. Why? Because you reflexively were trained to understand that KGB is bad, but somehow CIA is good. Why is CIA good? They're in the same business. CIA overthrew more governments than KGB can dream about. Did they commit any crime? Any crimes? No. But hey, he was a former KGB lieutenant colonel who was handed the presidency on the last days of 1999. Boris Yeltsin served, blah, 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 blah. And he was elected, but they don't say it, in the spring 2000. They don't say that. So already in the first paragraph, you should never, ever again Reuters. Ever. If you still believed in Reuters, go and vote for the US presidency in the US democratic system. Okay? So, just so you know, wasn't George Walker, he was walking, Bush, a what, FBI or CIA director, wasn't he? Why was he okay to be the president of the United States of America, but the KGB lieutenant colonel is not? I tell you why. Because you have to understand that we're good, and you have to understand that somehow they're bad. You have to understand that KGB who plays soccer is bad, but CIA who plays the same soccer is bad, is good. So the KGB team that plays by the same rules in football, soccer, are bad dudes, but CIA who plays the same game, football, soccer, they're somehow good. Alright? Now you've been babooned. Next one. On the other hand, we find out that this guy, who I think knows almost nothing about the geopolitics, history, foreign policy. I think Donald Trump, by his own statement, I think he's so, how do you call it, ruptured, estranged from reality and knowledge about the foreign policy. It's like I would talk to you about, I don't know, epigenetics. I don't know much about epigenetics. I know that epigenetics are a form of, changing your genetics through alimentation, behavior, past experience. Your parents, if they play volleyball and your mom was a gymnast, then you most likely, through their dad, are going to change the genes, transmit it to you, you're going to be maybe, probably, most likely a good sports person. That's epigenetics, changing by alimentation and behavior. Got that? That's all I know. Kind of. But I think it's enough to understand what it is. Well, Trump, on the other hand, he makes many decisions that affect this planet, I think, without knowing really less than I know about epigenetics. And this is what he says right here. And this is coming from the Ukrainian media. Ukrainska Pravda. Trump admits peace deal between Ukraine and Russia may be impossible. And that's what his conclusion is. US President Donald Trump has acknowledged that reaching a peace agreement between Ukraine and Russia may be unattainable due to the deep hatred between the two sides. Alright? So, the Ukrainians are celebrating that by the title, admits. Alright? Is it true? The first thing, is it true? In order for him to admit. I don't think it's true. I think the hatred between the Ukrainians and the Poles, from the Ukrainians and the Russians and the Poles, is based on historical events. Now, the historical events is like you have a bad relationship with someone, intimate relationship, or life is bad, and you keep dreaming about it, and those thoughts and memories come back and haunt you. You dream about it, you think about it, you see a certain circumstance, and then you think about the same. Oh, that's when that. How do you get out of that cycle? Not with medication, with the fucking doctors. Not like that. You get by forming new memories. You're forming new happy circumstances with the same people, if there is a way to form that. And by that, you overlap the old garbage with the new garbage. And the old garbage, your conscious and subconscious would wane away. And new memories are formed. Try this in your life. That's the way. If you have a phobia about something, or you don't like something, try to make it better. And then you're going to realize your new memories will override the old memories. That's how it is. So when the Ukrainians think that these things are reconcile? So I don't think so. It's interests who want these nations be at each other's throat. Now we have obviously the big love between the French and the Brits. Somehow they're friends now. Again, if you want the big love between the Germans and the French, big love. And now they're supposedly allies, and so on. But how do you do this? You do it with connections, with interacting. Have you noticed, I don't know if you did, but I did, that the mass media and these guys who try to have us hate one another based on group membership, if you meet a person from another group that you're supposed to hate, you realize, by these guys' standards, you realize that you have the same needs, the same problems. And the thing that you are maybe different, or something is different has really so little to do with our life experience. There's more things that bring us together than the things these guys overemphasize as being our reasons to hate one another. But Trump, who doesn't know, I think, anything about the Ukrainian nation, any fucking thing, I guarantee you, if you ask Trump about Ukraine, I don't think he's capable to tell you more than 5 facts. Ask him, for instance, when is Ukraine's National Day? I guarantee you he doesn't know. Ask him who is Ukraine's national poet. He's never going to say anything about Shevchenko, Taras Shevchenko, ever. Tell him the population. Ask him the population of Ukraine. I guarantee you that he would not know it. But he makes politics and said, I think the hatred between these guys cannot be reconcilable. You don't know anything about anything, to be honest. All right. So what do we have next? We have Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping has balls. He's going to go and participate in the Victory Day, Russian Victory Day parade in May 9th in Moscow. Zelensky threatens to bomb or to do something. He doesn't. Xi Jinping is going to show over there. What do you think will happen when or if someone, I don't know who, will send a few drones on the parade on the Red Square? And let's say, God forbid, your God forbid, Xi Jinping is hurt or Putin is hurt. What do you think will happen? Do you think those zealots waiting on the apocalypse to be fulfilled will celebrate? Because definitely those two countries will fuck them up. I'm talking about the Ukrainians who have no fault but just being propagandized to hate other people. Some of them. And some of them succeeded, some of them didn't. So you have here China Xi Jinping to pay official visit to Russia alongside Victory Day celebrations. So send your drones, and if something happens to one of these guys or two, then you're going to have a world war. Who's going to win? The zealots. China Xi Jinping to visit Russia on May 7th to 10th, Kremlin says. So they're going to do what exactly? To sign a series of deals in Moscow summit. He's not afraid. Neither is he. Now, I know we were mandated to hate these guys. They're the bad dudes. And somehow, Biden, Boris Johnson, Alena Baerbock, I can go on and on. Starmer, Macron, Scholz are supposed to be the good guys, Biden and Kamala. Well, I don't think it's like so. It is like how I started this video. Someone comes to you and tell you, maybe these guys are not the good guys. Remember when that guy called, who was that? Oh, General Patton. He said, it was attributed to him, after the Second World War, he looked around and said, in Germany, he said, maybe we fought the wrong people, maybe we fought on the wrong side. Now, I don't know if that's true, but think about it. Maybe we are on the wrong side. I'm not saying the other side is the good side, but definitely someone in our countries and our societies are directing us towards the wrong side. We lost our soul. And they can do anything they want with a soulless nation. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.